Hey you guys, it's me SpongeBob #1 fan 2003 here, and as you can see I'm here with another SpongeBob chapter book, and this one is called Where's Gary? And this was actually a late birthday gift. It was actually supposed to arrive when it was my birthday, but yeah, it actually just came yesterday, but yeah, it's a little bit late, but like obviously this still counts as a birthday gift. Okay, so as you can see, this book is actually number 13, and earlier today I actually reviewed the SpongeBob Hall Monitor chapter book, and that one was actually number 3, and this is actually number 13, so I just find that really funny, because yeah, and and yeah, this book was adapted by David Lumen and illustrated by Barry Goldberg. And there's a little picture of SpongeBob trying to look for Gary, and there's Gary on top of SpongeBob's head, but obviously he doesn't see Gary though. And there are like a bunch of like have you seen this snail like Gary posters everywhere? Because yeah, SpongeBob's just trying to look for his beloved pet snail. And here's the spine and the back. So right here is like a description about the story, and here's Gary's food bowl and about 4 other books that you can get. I actually have that one, and that one right there. But yeah, Mother Knows Best, I'm actually probably going to put that on my Christmas wish list. Yeah, and there's a small pen mark right here, but believe it or not, this book is in such good condition. Like, oh my goodness, I mean, you can literally see how like good it looks. I mean, there's barely any scratches on it at all, and that makes me very happy. Alright, so let's get started with looking at the pages that are in this book. And believe it or not, this is actually a colored book, so yeah, the pages are sort of colored, which I really like. Okay. Oh, and right there, SpongeBob actually sort of folded the page. Hold on a second. Kind of like that or something, but like obviously, yeah, you can see that SpongeBob is like trying to look for Gary, but yeah, he doesn't see him, and Gary's right behind that page. Oh, focus, there we go, and yeah, there's Where's Gary right there too. And this book was made in 2007, so I was about 4 years old. And yep, there's David Lumen and Gary Goldberg, Aaron Springer, and Paul Tibbitt. Okay, obviously this is based on the episode called Have You Seen the Snail? Okay, so here is chapter 1. So SpongeBob is like bringing some, like he's carrying a big bag of food for Gary. And yeah, you can see SpongeBob is like struggling there because of how heavy the food is. And he walks by Patrick's house, and yeah, SpongeBob's bringing home Gary some food, and yeah, Patrick actually has something to tell SpongeBob, but since Patrick isn't the smartest, he forgets what he has to say. And then SpongeBob places the food down, and yeah, SpongeBob actually gets a package in the mail, and inside the package is the official Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy paddle ball set, and SpongeBob is very excited about it. And believe it or not, to take the Dirty Bubble Challenge, you have to hit the paddle ball that many times. I don't even know how to say that number, but that is a big number. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, SpongeBob's going to try to, play the game because he doesn't want to let Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy down. He's trying to defeat the Dirty Bubble, but, apparently he accidentally keeps on hitting himself in the face with the ball and stuff. And, yeah, it's actually lunchtime for Gary, so Gary is waiting for some food, and, he thinks SpongeBob forgot, so he goes out to remind him, but, yeah, SpongeBob is really busy trying to defeat the Dirty Bubble for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, so he can't play with Gary right now, even though Gary wants food, not playtime. And then, yeah, so SpongeBob tries to do it some more, and like SpongeBob's getting very annoyed with Gary, and then Gary suddenly like literally like attaches himself to like Gary attaches himself to SpongeBob's face, and SpongeBob is like screaming and screaming and screaming, and he finally takes him off of his face, and yeah, SpongeBob tells Gary that he hates it when he does that, and he just throws Gary away, and he wants, and SpongeBob decides to do his important affairs. Even though I think Gary is a little bit more important than a silly ball game, I would definitely take care of Gary first before doing the paddle ball thing. And yeah, so apparently Gary feels really neglected, so he packs up all his things, and he leaves SpongeBob, and he goes on the Snailways bus. Because he's neglected, so he leaves SpongeBob. And then here's chapter 2. So a few days pass by, and Patrick decides to stop by SpongeBob's house. And yeah, and then Patrick finds SpongeBob laying on the floor saying barnacles or darn it non-stop, because he's trying his best to defeat the dirty bubble. And yeah, Patrick tells SpongeBob that he actually took that challenge, but they actually lost the trophy that they sent him. And yeah, SpongeBob and Patrick go get some like milk to drink. And then SpongeBob trips over Gary's bowl, and then he realizes that he needs to feed Gary, but then SpongeBob can't find Gary, so yeah, he has Patrick maybe taste, like Patrick actually tastes the milk, which is disgusting, and like since it tasted so sour, Patrick thinks that like it's been a week and 10 days, and oh, so SpongeBob is really super upset, and he tries to look for Gary, but unfortunately SpongeBob can't find Gary, so he tells Patrick that he can't find him, and he's in tears. So yeah, and Gary is really hungry, and yeah, Gary's really hungry, trying to find a new home, and then back at SpongeBob's place, SpongeBob decides to try to get Gary's attention with his favorite food. And apparently the can was empty. So yeah, apparently Patrick ate the snail food. And yeah, Patrick's belly's really big, so he decides to shake his belly because the food is in there. And yeah, so yeah, they stop by Squidward's house to see if Gary's there, but obviously he's not there. And yeah, SpongeBob literally looks in Squidward's bathtub, even though Squidward's already in the bathtub. And Patrick's trying to look underneath the sink and stuff. Yeah, Squidward's really freaked out, so he kicks SpongeBob and Patrick out. And then SpongeBob finds a super sad note from Gary. So SpongeBob finds out that Gary has left him. And yeah, SpongeBob is really super devastated and stuff. And yeah, so Gary sees some nachos, but those 3 scary snails sort of scare Gary away, but they actually just really wanted to invite him to have nachos with them. Okay, so yeah, suddenly Gary gets like suddenly someone picks up Gary. Here's chapter 4. And yeah, so a super sweet old lady finds Gary, and yeah, she takes him home with her. Okay, so yeah, she comforts Gary, or Miss Tuftsy, and she gives Gary some cookies and a lot of TLC, which means tender love and care. And yeah, she takes really good care of Gary, and she's had lots of snails in her life. So yeah, she feeds Gary lots of cookies. And now the woman's going to turn on some music and sort of dance with the snail, but apparently since you know, she's kind of in her elderly years, her back kind of broke a little bit, so yeah. And SpongeBob is trying to look for Gary and stuff in Bikini Bottom, and yeah, he tries to look everywhere, but he can't find him, which makes SpongeBob very sad. And here's chapter 5. So, yeah, and Gary and Grandma are actually watching TV together. Oh gosh. Okay. So yeah, they watch TV together. And yeah, Gary sees a picture of SpongeBob that he packed with him, and he thinks that SpongeBob's like, "Quiet, Gary, can't you see I'm busy?" And yeah, Gary is really mad at SpongeBob. And then Grandma takes Gary to bed. And then SpongeBob goes to work in the morning. He's kind of late. And yeah, so SpongeBob's very, very super tired from looking for Gary all night, and you can see that he's super tired. And yeah, SpongeBob tries to make Krabby Patties, but since he's so sad and devastated about Gary, he cries on the Krabby Patties. Okay, poor SpongeBob. So yeah, SpongeBob tells Mr. Krabs about, he tells Mr. Krabs about Gary leaving him. And yeah, SpongeBob goes, Mr. Krabs gives SpongeBob some advice. So yeah, SpongeBob leaves. And yeah, here's chapter 6. So yeah, and SpongeBob and Patrick make some posters and stuff to try to find Gary. Oh yeah, there's SpongeBob with all of his scissors and pencils and paper and tape. And yeah, so yeah, oh my gosh, so Gary and Grandma are enjoying breakfast together, and they go out for some errands and stuff. And yeah, they stop by the store and hang up some posters. And yeah, SpongeBob and Patrick do. And yeah, Patrick actually sees scented pine cones, and he sees the Grandma carrying them, and she says that she bought the last ones. And Patrick actually sees Gary, but yeah, obviously he forgets to tell SpongeBob that, so they take more posters and hang them up. And yeah, there's the Grandma and Gary walking out of the store. And yeah, here's chapter 7. So yep, so Grandma and Gary get home from the store, and Gary goes onto the newspapers to go, I guess, potty. And yeah, the Grandma got some posters from SpongeBob, and yeah, you can tell that there's Gary, I am so sorry, and Gary, I love and miss you so much. So yeah, Gary realizes how much SpongeBob missed him, and yeah, Gary thinks that was the door to get out, but apparently that was the door full of all of the old snail shells from all of the previous snails that Grandma had. So yeah, Gary leaves Grandma behind, and yeah, he hides from her, and she finds another snail, which is one of the snails that offer Gary some nachos. So here's chapter 8. So yeah, SpongeBob is sitting on the couch with his fists clenched and stuff, and he's really super upset about Gary, and he wants to cry, but he can't. And so yeah, he really wants to get Gary out of his mind, but he can't. So yeah, there he is with all the posters, and then there he is sniffing and stuff, and he's talking to a poster with Gary on it, and there's little Gary right there, and he really misses him so much. But Gary purrs on his head, and SpongeBob says, "Gary, your purring is making it hard to forget you." And then SpongeBob sees Gary, and he's so happy that he just hugs and kisses Gary. And he says that things are going to be different between them from now on. And yeah, SpongeBob decides to take Gary inside the house and feed him. And Gary is more than happy enough. So yeah, there's little SpongeBob with his pet snail, and they're both really happy to have each other again. Okay, and then here's the end, and there's SpongeBob and Gary, which I think is so adorable, and there are some DVDs right here. Okay, so it's actually pretty much all for this super adorable SpongeBob Where's Gary chapter book. I really super love this chapter book. It's really super sweet and cute. I just love how awesome SpongeBob, like I just love how, you know, Gary realizes that SpongeBob misses him and he decides to come back home. Like, literally, that is just so sweet. And yep, so I hope you guys like this book, and let me know what your favorite part about this book was in the comments down below. So goodbye everybody, have a great day, and peace out.